I don't think I will ever forget that night. We didn't know what was going on. But with Jesus, that was often the case, that we didn't know what was going on, and often, as soon as we thought we had it figured out, everything turned around again. I remember that day when he asked us, who do people say that you are? And we gave all these answers, and finally I said, you are the Messiah. And he said, you're right. And then he began talking about suffering and dying, and I said, no, you are the Messiah. There is no suffering, there is no dying. And you know what he said? He called me Satan. He said, you've got your mind set on the things of this world and not on the things of God. He called me Satan. But see, I've always been like that. I've always been quick to jump to a conclusion and quick to speak and never slowing down enough to think about what's going on. And it happened again that night. We had come into Jerusalem earlier in the week, and we had watched Jesus as he interacted with the folks there in Jerusalem, from cleansing the temple and teaching. And he called us together he wanted us to come together for the Passover meal. So he gathered us together, and we were in this room. And we sat down, and we were sharing the meal. And then suddenly in the middle of the meal, Jesus got up and he took off his outer robe and he picked up a basin and a towel and a pitcher of water, and he started going around washing the feet of each of us. And we couldn't figure out what was going on because you see, normally when you would go to a meal at someone's house, the host of the meal would provide water and a towel and a basin, and we would wash our own feet. Or if there was a special guest there, the host might have his servants wash the feet. But Jesus was washing the feet. Now you may be wondering, you say, what is the big deal with washing feet? Why would we even worry about washing feet? Well, you got to remember that back in our day, there were no paved roads. There were no sidewalks. Nobody wore Nikes or New Balances or closed shoes. We had sandals, open sandals, and the roads were dusty, and so we walked on those roads and our feet became dirty, and if it rained, our feet became muddy, and if we weren't careful around the livestock, our feet, you get the picture. And so when you would go to a meal, you would wash your feet as you went in to the house, so that you wouldn't track that through the house. And I don't know, I still to this day don't know why we didn't wash our feet when we got there. But we hadn't. Maybe it was the excitement of the evening. Maybe it was the tension that was in the air. But and maybe Jesus just planned it that way. But we went in, and then Jesus got up and he started washing the feet. And I was the last one. And he came to me. And I said, Jesus, what do you think you're doing? He says, you don't understand right now, but just wait. Just wait. I'll explain it to you. And that's when it happened. I said, Jesus, you're never going to wash my feet. And what he said to me hurt just about as bad as when he called me Satan. He said, if you don't let me wash your feet, you have no part of me. If you don't let me wash your feet, then you have completely misunderstood and wasted the last 3 years we have spent together. So, yeah, Jesus, not just my feet. Wash my hands, wash my whole body, Jesus. Jesus laughed. He did that all because he knew we just didn't get it. He said, you still don't understand. The rest of your body is clean. It's just your feet that are dirty. Let me wash your feet. Then I'll explain. And so I let him wash my feet. Then he cleaned his hands, and he went back to the table, and we continued eating. And he said to us, he said, y'all call me teacher, y'all call me Lord, and you're right, because that's who I am. And he said, if I am your teacher, and I am your Lord, and I have washed your feet, then you ought to wash one another's feet. Because no student is greater than their teacher. No messenger is greater than the one who sends them with the message. If I have done this, you ought to be willing to do this. And that's when I began to get it. It really wasn't about our feet. It was about him serving us. It was him giving us a picture of what he had talked about days before when he heard some of the disciples arguing about who was the greatest. And he had said that day that, if you want to be the greatest in the kingdom, then you have to be willing to be the least. And we just attributed that as another one of those sayings that Jesus said that we just really didn't get, but we just acted like we did. But we understood now. Or at least I understood now. Jesus didn't come that he might be served, but he came to serve. He came and gave up everything. Not only to serve God, but to serve man. And that's what he did. I realize now that's what he did with the cross as well. For it was such an act of humility for him to carry that cross through the streets of Jerusalem in front of everyone. And he took on the sins. He died like a sinner, but not just any sinner. He died like the worst of criminals on a cross. And he did that to do what we couldn't do for ourselves. To bring us the gift of salvation. But that night, he was teaching us what we were to do for one another. said, if you're still not getting the picture, I give you a new commandment. Love one another. Just as I have loved you, so you are to love one another. This is what love looks like. And he made it very clear. He made it very clear after the cross and after the empty tomb, when we were there by the lake. Because after I had denied him 3 times, yes, I did that too, he forgave me. And he said, do you love me? 3 times he said, do you love me? If you love me, then take care of my sheep. Feed my lambs. Jesus said, if you love me, then you will look and see where there is a need and you will serve. And it doesn't matter where any of you have been. Jesus will forgive you too. And then call you to serve him by showing love. By loving one another. And he says, that's how the world, he told us, that's how the world is going to know that you follow me. If you love one another, if you are willing to serve one another, then people will know you're following me. It may be in washing someone's feet. It may be in feeding the hungry. It may be in visiting the sick and the shut-in. It may be in embracing the lonely, in welcoming the immigrant. It may be in sharing the love of Christ with someone who doesn't even know who Jesus is. That's what foot washing was about that night. That's what I learned that night. And so tonight, in remembering, you're invited to participate. You're invited to come and remember. To come and humble yourself, washing one another's feet as an act of love for one another. No one has to this night. You may simply sit there and reflect on the meaning. But I encourage you to participate. Because when we enact what Jesus calls us to do, it ingrains it in us so much stronger than just merely thoughts floating through our head. So as the Spirit leads you, I encourage you to find someone. Come to the front. We have 3 stations set up. And take turns washing one another's feet. Not because you have to, but as an act of love, humble love, remembering the love that Christ showed us.